Right, students, so welcome back. And in this brief video, what I'm going to be doing is taking you through the 3 course assignments for EDFA 5500. So the first course assignment is due on the 18th of February, which is about 5 weeks from now. And it's worth 20% of your 100% coursework. How this assignment works is that it is an individual assignment. Of the 3, assignment 1 is an individual assignment, and it is it's basically reflective in orientation. So to do this assignment, what you have to do is you have to click on the link you see here. You will receive this the document with the 3 assignments. And when you get it, what you do is you click on this. You see it says this is the link to the discussion. You click on that, and it will take you to an external folder located in my OneDrive, where you will see a discussion that lasts for close to an hour between a School of Education staff member and some secondary school students. So you have to listen. The idea is that you listen to the panel discussion, which is based on the topic of promoting inclusive education practices, right? So we have, I think there were about 5, maybe 6 students, secondary school students, current students, and they were talking about promoting inclusive education practices, which is our theme, if you recall. So you have to view and listen to the discussion, then write a 1,000-word reflection on what you heard. And you are responding in that reflection to these 3 questions here. 1, you have to identify an issue. When you listen to the discussion, identify an issue that emerged in the student panel discussion that was related to the theme. So identifying means just clearly expressing what you consider to be an issue that the students raised related to the theme, right? So it's a clear explanation. That tells us whether you've understood it or not. Then you go on to describe. So 2 marks means that you're not going to write a whole page. Is that okay? 2 marks simply means identifying the issue and just briefly talking about and explaining what it is you have understood about that they say. Describing your experience of the issue in your school term. So to get this is now worth 6 marks. It is 3 times the first question. So obviously, this is going to require more exploration than for question 1. So what do you do now? Well, the issue which you had identified that the children spoke about relating to promoting inclusive education practices, you are now going to talk about your own experience with that issue in your school context. All right. So if the students described issue A or B, then what you do now is that having identified it in question 1, now you will come and talk about how that issue perhaps operates. What's your own experience of that in your particular context? Obviously, this means that we expect you to tell us what is the nature of your school context, right? Because if we say your experience in your school context, then if you don't describe the context, then we don't know. We have no grounding, no contextual basis for understanding your experience. So that's 6 marks. So obviously that means a bit more writing. And the 3rd question then asks you to reflect on how addressing the issue, which is what you discussed earlier, how that issue can set you in the path of being a quality educator. So there are 2 things here, notice. 1, the goal, notice the goal for all of us, including lecturers, the goal for all of us is being quality educators. And what we're asking you to do there is to reflect on how the issue which you talked about in 1 and 2, how that issue can be addressed, and then by doing that, it can help you to be a quality educator. So the underlying assumption then is that, that if we address issues relating to promoting inclusive educational practices, it will lead us to becoming quality educators, right? So notice that this is with 12 marks. This is 6 times the question 1 and twice question 2. So this has implications for the amount of thought that goes into it and the length of it. But when you add 1, 2, and 3, notice that it must not exceed 1,000 words, which is approximately 4 typewritten pages. Okay. A word of advice: if it is that you have not done much writing for the last couple of years, maybe, if you haven't done much writing since your undergraduate degree, then I suggest that you begin early. This is during the 18th of February, so please begin early and give yourself enough time so that you can do a draft and you can fix it. You might send it to a colleague or somebody whom you trust to read it for you. A family member, perhaps, they can read it for you and tell you whether, you know, what you wrote aligns with what the question requires, right? So it's necessary to understand that this is a reflective thing. Note that this is on the 18th February, you are not required to include in this essay any of the concepts or ideas or theories which you encountered or will encounter in the foundations and issues session. You don't have to include sociology, language, philosophy, etc. You don't. This question is based entirely on the plenary discussion with the students. So once you've written it, you send it via email to your tutor. Your tutor here is your foundations tutor. If your foundations tutor is the same person who tutors you for pedagogy and practicum, then fine. However, remember, we had said earlier, your tutor, your foundations tutor may be somebody completely different. You might be an English student, and I might be your practicum tutor, but for foundations, you might be in the math or science lecturers tutorial group. So send the assignment to your foundations tutor, okay? And finally, note that we deduct marks for spelling, grammar, and punctuation. So please be careful with your writing. And if you start early, you will be able to finish on time. Note that, before I move on to assignment 2, note that your tutor will not provide any feedback on assignment 1. You have to draft it, get somebody, one of your acquaintances, to read it, but your tutor is not going to provide feedback on assignment 1. Okay, so on to assignment 2. Pardon me. So unlike assignment 1, which is an individual assignment and you can't collaborate with anybody, assignment 2 is a group assignment. So in your groups, your tutor will have between 8 to 10 students. Your tutor will split his or her group into 2, subdivided. So you'll get, like, for example, it's either 4 and 4 or 5 and 5, as the case will be. So you're going to have 2 subgroups. You will be in one of those subgroups, and the members of your subgroup will then be responsible for doing a group presentation. So this is different from assignment 1 and assignment 2. This is a group assignment where you collaborate with the other members of your subgroup, which could be like 3 or 4 other persons. And what you're doing is that you are creating a 20-minute, see it says here, 20-minute multimedia presentation. The multimedia presentation can be, for example, a recording of you and your fellow group members discussing or doing it could be a slideshow where you discuss your answers to what you see here, 1 and 2 above, where it says this. These are the questions you have to work on for assignment 2. So the 20-minute multimedia presentation is where you could, if you wish, do a slideshow. If you meet face-to-face, you could do a video recording using your phone or other device. It's completely up to you, right? So the TI, Technology Integration lecturers, will give you more ideas on what kind of creative presentation you can create, all right? So what you do is when you meet in your subgroup, you are addressing these 2 questions here. this is what assignment 2 is about. So you're taking at least 3 foundation areas. So this one now, you must use foundation disciplines, either language, so remember there's language, sociology, philosophy, HFLE, and psychology. So you're choosing at least 3 of those. So suppose it is you choose sociology, language, and philosophy, then what you have to do is use the concepts, theories, ideas from those chosen foundation areas, and you are then going to tell your audience about the importance of promoting inclusive education policies and practices in Trinidad and Tobago. Okay, so using the relevant and appropriate concepts from your chosen foundation areas, you are going to make a case. That's what you have to do. You have to argue. You have to make a case using your chosen foundation areas. Make a case for promoting inclusive education practices and policies. So in other words then, why is it important for us to have an inclusive education system? That's what question 1 is. Why is it important for us to have an inclusive education system? That's the question you're answering, and you're going to convince me of that by bringing relevant concepts, theories from any 3 foundation areas, okay? Then after you've done that, you're going to explore how this might be achieved, meaning how can inclusive education policies and practices, how can we promote that? How can we promote inclusive education policies and practices in the school context of the members of your tutorial group? So it's possible, and it is possible, given the diversity of school types in Trinidad and Tobago, it's possible that you could be in a group with people who are all from the same school type, like denominational schools, or all in the same school type, such as government schools, right? Or it might be a mix. So you have to look at the school context of the members of your group. And then you have to say, okay, so in our school contexts, and our school contexts are different. Some of us are at denominational school. I teach at a girls' denominational school. The other person teaches at a male denominational school. Somebody else teaches at a co-ed. But in the school context, our school context then, we can go about promoting inclusive education policies and practices by doing A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Where did we get this from? From the foundation areas. So you have to link back the how to your foundation disciplines. If you chose psychology, philosophy, and HFLE, then you have to use their concepts to talk about how you're going to achieve it in your context. All right. Once you do that, so you're doing that and you are recording it, you will get help from the TI lecturers in terms of the possibilities that you have, for doing your presentation, whether it's video recording a slideshow, whatever it is. You could do things like skits if you want. You could do role plays, any of those things, anything, something nice and creative. Okay. And once you've recorded your 20, it's for 20 minutes, no more than that. Once you do your 20-minute recording, you must upload it, save it, and upload it to an online space. For example, you could upload it to YouTube. You can upload it to Google Drive, OneDrive, iCloud, anything like that. You could upload it and then get a link. And you are then putting the link into a document and uploading the document to the Dropbox and My Learning. All right. Your tutor will give you more details on that. The idea then is that when I click on your link, it will take me to your video. All right. So note that all persons in the subgroup, if there are 4 of you or 5 of you in your subgroup, everybody in that subgroup must participate in the oral presentation. Okay, so if there are 4 persons in your group or 5 persons in your group, it can't be that only 3 or 2 persons do the presentation and the rest are responsible for writing. No, everybody's responsible for writing, everybody's responsible for researching, everybody's responsible for the oral presentation. And you make sure that the names of all persons in your subgroup are on the sheet that you submit, all right? Okay, so there are more details here on the sheet that you can read, and I think that it's kind of self-explanatory. So after your tutors have graded and made responses to the video, notice that there will be a online synchronous session. Synchronous means not recorded. Synchronous means live. So your tutors will let you know which Zoom link to use on the 30th of April, and they will provide you with feedback. And there are other things here in terms of students viewing all presentations. So what's happening is that the video you create and that the other group in your tutorial creates will be circulated for you to view. All right. So your group will join with another group, so that there'll be 4 presentations in all, 2 from your group, 2 from the other tutors group, and you must then view the 3 other presentations and prepare questions for those other groups. There is an assignment rubric which guides you on how to go about preparing your presentation. So you will get 70% of your mark from your tutors and 30% from your peers. The peer evaluation form will be emailed separately to you. All right. And let me see, is there anything I need to speak about here? Right. So I think if you read this carefully, the rubric carefully, that you should have a fair idea of what it is required in your presentation. Okay. So for example, it shows importance of promoting inclusive education practices. So that goes back to the first part of the question, that, which I was talking about earlier. So you must convince your reader, well, not reader, yeah, well, audience, convince your audience of why it's important to promote inclusive practice. And remember, that's based on the foundation areas, right? So that would be here. So this simply says we're looking for an argument. What is your argument? This here means the tutor is looking, what is your argument? This here means what are the foundation concepts and ideas that you used in order to make this argument here. Is that okay? And this here, this is where your tutor and examiner are looking to see, well, what are the approaches that you identified as being possible ways of promoting the policies and practices of inclusion. So we're looking for 2 specific approaches. So not about 10, you're just looking for 2. Okay. And then you get credit for responding to the questions from your peers and your tutors. And because this is a presentation, you get credit for communication skills. So please don't create a video where you reading from the page all the time and you're not engaging with your audience, right? Okay, finally, assignment 3. Now, unlike assignment 2, which was a group presentation where you were working with your colleagues, assignment 3 is like assignment 1, meaning that you cannot collaborate to write the response to the assignment. You cannot do that. If you do that, then it means that you basically are not doing this on your own. And this is not allowed. So the course assessment is for 2 individual responses and 1 group. So let me repeat that. Assignment 3 is completely independently written by you. You can go back and talk to your friends from your subgroup. You are allowed. So for example, in assignment 2, suppose you all had chosen language, sociology, and philosophy, And suppose it is that members of your group had individually researched those things, but you would have shared it. You are allowed in assignment 3 to use the research that your colleagues in your subgroup had collated. You are allowed to use that. What you are not allowed to do is to collaborate with them to construct your response, right? So in assignment 3, what you're doing is that you are referring to the same approach. So look at this. Let's go back to assignment 2. Remember, assignment 2 said, explore how this might be achieved, right? How assignment 2 said, in other words, how can you go about promoting inclusive education policies and practices in the school context? How can you do it? So the question of how, remember, you would have given us 2 feasible approaches, right? Based on the theories that you read, you would have given us 2. So you're using those same 2 approaches that you talked about in assignment 2. And what you're doing now is that you are going to do this. You're going to explore and critically examine how any 2 stakeholders can promote inclusivity in your school. So let's go back over that. In assignment 2, you will have provided us with 2 approaches that you think could be used to promote inclusion, right? Now in assignment 3, you by yourself, talking about your school, not the schools of other members of your subgroup who you worked with in assignment 2, talking about your school, how can you use those same 2 approaches, right, to promote inclusion in your school? Is that okay? And so you will look, you're choosing from this list here. You're choosing any 2 persons. So you could say, these are the 2 approaches. I have 2 approaches, A and B. And in my school, the nature of my school is like this and this and this. There's a context in my school. So what I'm going to do is I'm choosing school administrators and teachers. And I am going to tell you how my school administrators, like my VP and my principal, and my colleagues, the teacher colleagues, how these 2 sets of stakeholders, I'm going to tell you how they can promote inclusion by using approach A and approach B, right? So let me just repeat that because I'm not sure I got it clearly. So the same 2 approaches you used you propose in assignment 2. Tell me now how any 2 stakeholders can use those to promote inclusivity in your school context. So obviously it means you need to tell us something about your school. What's the nature of your school? Right? What's the nature of your school? How inclusive or exclusive is it? And how is this thing going to work? Please be reminded that this is a foundation assignment and you will get lots of credit for using foundation concepts and 0 credit if you do not use the foundation concepts. So you will notice here in the rubric, you have to establish a context. Then you have to tell us about the concepts you want to use. And very importantly, you will notice here that I have in red that you have to synthesize and analyze ideas. You get a lot of credit in this assignment for synthesizing the foundation concepts and showing us how those ideas, those concepts or theories, how they can work in your school context. All right. If you come up with some ideas and you do not provide us with any references to literature, if you do not tell us how those ideas are grounded in the things you have read, then you do not get any credit. You have to show us how the things work together. Because remember, this is a foundations course. So you have to show us how the foundations ideas and foundations concepts work in your context. Okay, so once you have done that, this is 2,500 words. And once you have done, and it's with 40%. So once you have done that, what you have to do is you have to upload your assignment to My Learning and then send an exact copy of it via email to your tutor. All right. And alrighty. So again, this one is 2,500 words. This is the longest assignment. And therefore, I strongly advise you to begin working on it early. The due date is 28th of May. Please don't start a week before, or like 8 days before, 10 days before. That won't work, because remember, you have to do the reading on your own. You have to do the reading, you have to collate all your stuff, you have to do your draft, and then you have to write it. Now, your tutors will accept at least one draft from you or 2 drafts from you. Okay, so what this means is that when you write out your response, you can send it to your tutor, your foundations tutor, send it to your foundations tutor, who will then give it a read, make some comments. Your tutor is not going to respond to 6 or 5 or 4 drafts, right? Your tutor would respond to a limited number of drafts. And so it's up to you. You can send it. Please don't look to send a draft on the 27th of May, unless your tutor says yes. And definitely not on the 28th of May. So if you start early, you will have enough time for the ideas to gel in your brain and for you to work out any issues. The basic principle here is start early. Start early enough so that the ideas can fully form in your head, and then when you begin to write, you will be in a much better position. I'll talk about this more in the academic writing session. So if you have any questions relating to this, feel free to write to me at my email address, and I will respond to you. So that's it with respect to the assignments. Thank you.